Hi everyone, welcome back to my series Decades of Action Challenge, which was inspired by the Epic Film Challenge currently being conducted by Forkerball, aka Ian, and Razorwire Reviews, aka Luke, regarding the book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. I am using a series of essays by Tom Breihan for avclub.com called A History of Violence, in which he charts the course of the action movie genre from Bullitt in 1968 to the present, citing what he feels is the most important or influential action movie of each year since that period. And for 1971, I made a big mistake. I looked at the title of the article and the little photograph that headed it up, and also the stinger from the previous article that seemed to suggest that Breihan was going to call a draw on Don Siegel's film Dirty Harry and William Friedkin's film The French Connection from 1971, but he didn't do that. He actually put the focus of his article on Dirty Harry, which is kind of disappointing because I certainly don't like that movie better than The French Connection. Don Siegel, of course, began the Dirty Harry series with Clint Eastwood playing Dirty Harry Callahan, San Francisco police inspector, starting with the film Dirty Harry and going on through the Deadpool in the 80s. He also, well, that wasn't actually, those weren't all Don Siegel's films, but Clint Eastwood, of course, played Callahan in all of them. But Siegel did go on to direct more movies, or actually he made some films with Clint before and after Dirty Harry, including Escape from Alcatraz, Two Mules for Sister Sarah, with Shirley MacLaine, The Beguiled, and Coogan's Bluff. He's also the director of John Wayne's last film, The Shootist, and the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956. So yeah, quite an impressive resume. And when Clint Eastwood made Unforgiven, he actually paid tribute to Don Siegel, along with Sergio Leone, who directed him in the Man with No Name westerns at the close of that film. Clearly, he had a close professional relationship with Don. So, Dirty Harry, again, is set in San Francisco, just like Bullitt is, with Steve McQueen. And Callahan basically is looking for an assassin, basically, a psychotic person who's basically killing people for fun and demanding that the city of San Francisco provide him with a $200,000 payoff to stop killing people. And Clint's like, yeah, even if you pay him, he's not going to stop. And why are we paying him anyway? And this is ridiculous and everything like that. But the mayor's scared of, the kind of public fallout that could occur if it gets out to the public that they could have paid the killer off and didn't, and thus he keeps on killing people. And Clint's not having any of it. He's just like, let's just find the guy and kill him. Like, let's just shoot him. So yeah, he's a real tough guy. Not really fond of being told what to do. Not being fond of being reminded that criminals have rights. He's just like, what about the rights of the victims? Blah blah blah. He's very hard-nosed. And with good reason, too, in this particular case, because a lot of movies where good guys hunt bad guys, the villains can be quite charismatic. They can be appealing in some way, even though they're thieves or murderers. Look at Hannibal Lecter. He's quite an interesting character, despite the fact that he eats people. And you've got guys like Darth Vader, you've got Alan Rickman in Die Hard. There's a long tradition of charming and kind of admirable villains. That's not the case with Dirty Harry. The killer, who never is given a name other than the one that he sort of adopts for his communications with the police, Scorpio, is played by a guy named Andy Robinson, and he is one of the biggest weasels that I've ever seen in any movie ever. I mean, he is just absolutely deplorable. He loves to kill. He really gets off in hurting people and causing them pain, and he'll do everything possible to exercise his constitutional rights, of course, and saying that he needs a lawyer and everything like that. Clint Eastwood basically he drives Clint Eastwood up the wall basically because he just uses the system to duck out of any kind of responsibility and put the blame on the cops, even though he's clearly the guilty party. There was this whole sequence in the movie where he kidnaps a girl basically and tells the cops that she's got oxygen, but it's going to run out by a particular time, so you better pay me the money by a certain time. And then once he actually gets the money from Clint Eastwood, he says, "I'm going to let the girl die. I've changed my mind, and I wanted you to know that before I kill you." Clint gets the upper hand on him, and as soon as he does, the guy's like, "But I want a lawyer. I have rights. I want a lawyer," And when they finally do find the girl, who unfortunately they don't get to in time, Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry's basically. I kept waiting to mention the fact that maybe they couldn't actually prosecute him because I deprived him of a lawyer and everything like that. But how are we going to explain to the public or to a jury how we found the girl's body in the first place if the guy didn't kidnap her? It's just like there's no way we would have ever found her in the first place. If the guy that kidnapped her, this maniac, hadn't told us. So there's this whole hullabaloo about how his constitutional rights have been violated, and so then this killer begins another campaign basically of taunting the cops and acquiring more guns and things like that. It just gets to be way too much. This guy exists basically just to torment Callahan, torment the cops, and inflict pain on people. So he's not a terribly realistic character. The movie itself is okay, but it's not something that I really find all that great stylistically. I much prefer The French Connection. Before I re-reviewed this article that Breihan wrote and realized that he had sort of favored Dirty Harry over The French Connection, I watched both movies in one day, and The French Connection's a much better movie. Friedkin's responsible for some really great set pieces involving car chases. And they're actually, I didn't realize that The French Connection actually had a sequel. I knew Dirty Harry had several movies as follow-ups with the character of Callahan. But The French Connection actually does have a sequel in which we see the main character, played by Gene Hackman, plays a New York cop named Popeye Doyle, pursue the character that he was looking for to France, because that guy is from France. He's basically a very high-class heroin dealer, and he is supervising a shipment of heroin to be transported from France to New York, where some local organized crime figures are going to purchase it from him. Popeye Doyle is partnered up with another cop played by Roy Scheider, who's really great. Love Roy Scheider. And they're very aggressively following this guy around and surveilling him in order to find out what's happening, and where the deal is going to go down and catch these guys in the act. The French character is a very clever guy and is able to evade cops rather easily at certain points, and that really makes Gene Hackman's character, Popeye Doyle, frustrated. Gene Hackman plays angry people. There's very few people that play angry characters as well as Gene Hackman. I'd say him and Ed Harris are, and maybe Samuel Jackson are like the best guys to play people who are just enraged at stuff. But the big set piece in The French Connection, of course, is where one of the French heroin dealer's associates tries to take Doyle out. He tries to basically shoot him with a rifle from the roof of his apartment building as he's coming home. And that leads to a foot chase, which then goes to the New York subway system. And the murderer gets on this elevated train, and he ends up killing a couple of transit cops and taking over the train and making the driver skip stops so he could get away. Meanwhile, Hackman has to commandeer a civilian's car and race, along, trying to catch up to this train, trying to catch this guy. It's a great chase scene, a really great chase scene. It's about 11 or 12 minutes long from beginning to end. And comparing that side by side with Bullet, I have to say I prefer the French Connection much, much more, because it really is much more tightly edited and just is much more fast-paced. Despite the fact that this only came out just a couple years after Bullet, it's very much the superior chase. I mean, obviously Bullet was very groundbreaking, and it was sort of a one-of-a-kind when it was made, but then, you know, Friedkin took, you know, basically that and built on it and improved it and made it even more exciting and more dramatic. Yeah, really, really terrific movie. And Dirty Harry, you know, it's an okay movie, but I'm not a really big fan of it. Mostly just because the conflict between the two main characters is just so incredibly one-sided. You know, the killer is just absolutely completely unredeemable. He is just like not even, you know, there's no motivation for this guy other than the fact that he lives in basically the groundskeeper's quarters of a sports arena, and probably wants to find a nicer place to live. And plus, he really likes hurting people and killing people and taunting them and causing them all kinds of pain. He has really no motivation beyond that, and so he's a very, you know, unbelievable character, really. And the fact that he is basically sort of, you know, seems like specifically engineered to drive a character like Callahan, Dirty Harry Callahan, up the wall, makes the movie pretty thin, in my book, pretty thin. But of course, it was very influential. Breihan in his article points out some of the tropes that are been used quite frequently since the movie was made, including the scene where the main character, the cop, basically wanders into a crime which is completely unrelated to the rest of the plot and manages to, you know, stop it single-handedly. That's the whole "Do you feel lunky punk" scene, which Clint Eastwood stops at a diner to get some food and notices that a robbery is taking place at the bank across the street, and, you know, shoots all the guys and stops them. There's actually another scene similar to that in one of the other Dirty Harry movies. I believe it's called Sudden Impact. I only really saw it the one time, but it's the "Go ahead, make my day" bit. He walks into a diner and there's another holdup, and so he pulls his gun on the perpetrators and says, "Go ahead, make my day. You know, go ahead and kill the hostage or whatever. I'll shoot you dead, and that'll be the highlight of my day." Yeah, I don't know that I've seen. I have seen, if not most of, if not all the movie, then most of the one which he's paired with Tyne Daly. Tyne Daly co-starred on a television show for a number of years called Cagney and Lacey. So she's his partner for the majority of the of that movie. I think, let's see here. I know I made a note of this somewhere. The guy who plays Clint Eastwood's partner. His name is Rennie Santoni. But he doesn't, you know, they get involved in the whole big set piece involving the transfer of money when Scorpio, the killer, demands that San Francisco pay him $200,000. They say, "Tell Callahan to be the bagman," and Callahan ends up running all over the city, going from payphone to payphone, while the killer calls him and tells him where to go next. And finally, when he gets the money, you know, his partner shows up and not the killer's partner, obviously, Clint Eastwood's partner. But that guy gets basically sort of incapacitated, catches one of the killer's bullets and doesn't die, but ends up saying, you know, "This isn't the life for me, I'm retiring." So Clint Eastwood again becomes sort of the lone wolf character that he almost always plays in movies of this type. So yeah, sorry if that's a bit long-winded. I wanted to talk about both movies because I felt they were both pretty important. But again, Breihan's pick, despite what the title of the article would lead you to suggest, is mostly about Dirty Harry rather than the French Connection. But I recommend the French Connection over Dirty Harry. If you want to read Breihan's article, that's linked in the description below, along with my Facebook page if you'd like to visit that. I post, of course, my own videos as well as other people's videos and other things of interest there. Thanks very much for watching. The next movie will be from 1972, and it is a film co-starring Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris called The Way of the Dragon. Martial arts movie, I'm guessing. Never seen it before, so I'll be checking that out for the first time and posting a video on it 1 week from today. Hope you'll tune in for that. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.